Let's start this lecture by trying to answer the following questions. Name all the planets in order, starting with the first planet from the Sun. Could you do it from memory? If so, that's pretty amazing. Although most of us know all the planets' names from school, if you don't actively work to keep that information fresh and relevant, you could find it difficult to recall it. You may have remembered some or had them in the wrong order. Now, I'd like you to memorize the following sentence before we move on with the course. Now pay particular attention because you're going to have to answer a question about it at the end of the course. So this is the sentence that I'd like you to memorize. It goes as follows. My very educated mother just served us nougat. Okay, I'm now going to ask you a few questions about our memory from a set of questions created by Jane Royal and Nadina Lincoln. For each of these questions, you have to ask yourself how often something happens to you. Note it down to keep score. Give each question a score of 1 to 5 to indicate how often it happens. Here is what each number represents. Number 1, once or less than once in the last month. 2, more than once a month, but less than once a week. Number 3, about once a week. Number 4, more than once a week, but not every day. And number 5, once a day or more. Now don't worry too much if you didn't write that down, as there will be a written copy supplied as part of the course resources. So here come the questions. Remember to write down the frequency score for each of them separately. The first question. Having to check whether you have done something that you should have done. The second question. Forgetting when it was that something happened. For example, was it yesterday or last week? Third question. Forgetting that you were told something yesterday or a few days ago and maybe having to be reminded about it. Fourth question. Starting to read something, a book or an article in a newspaper, without realising you have already read it before. Fifth question. Finding that a word is on the tip of your tongue, you know what it is but can't quite find it. The sixth question. Completely forgetting to do things you said you would do and things you planned to do. The seventh question. Forgetting important details of what you did or what happened to you the day before. The eighth question. When talking to someone, forgetting what you have just said, maybe saying, "What was that I was talking about?" And the ninth question. When reading a newspaper or magazine, being unable to follow the thread of a story or losing track of what it is about. The 10th question. Forgetting to tell somebody something important, perhaps forgetting to pass on a message or remind someone of something. 11th question. Getting the details of what someone told you mixed up and confused. The 12th question. Forgetting where things are normally kept or looking for them in the wrong place. And lastly, question number 13. Repeating to someone what you have just told them or asking someone the same question twice. Okay, now look at all the scores for the different questions. Are they mostly ones? Mostly twos? Do you have poor scores in general? The idea here is not to give you a number as a score, but to think about how often and in what ways your memory fails you on a daily basis. Why do this, you may be asking? Well, so that you can have a clear idea of where your memory needs improving, and also a good overall idea of your memory performance in general. Oh yes, do you still remember that sentence I gave you a few moments ago? If you do, that's great. Here it is again. My very educated mother just served us nougat. It should have been a pretty easy sentence to remember. But look at the first letter of every word. They stand for the names of the 8 planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. This is known as an acrostic, and we'll be looking at them in more depth a bit later on. Now, just by remembering one funny little sentence, you can do something new. Remember all the planets and their order. In the next lecture, we'll be looking at why we forget things and how we can avoid some of the more common reasons.